So for the last 8 weeks, I have been watching The Act on Wednesdays. I finished the show a couple days ago, but I didn't know if I was actually going to review it or not, but fuck it. I'm reviewing everything I watch now. It's fun. It's fun to talk about it with you guys. So for those of you that don't know what The Act is, it's a Hulu original series, and it is based on the true story, the unfortunately true story of Gypsy Rose Blanchard and her mother, Dee Dee Blanchard. Now, there is a documentary on HBO, I think, called Mommy Dead and Dearest, and that tells the real story, and this is a dramatization version of those events. So obviously there are some things that are fabricated for dramatic purposes, but overall it is the story at its core. Now, Joey King plays Gypsy Rose Blanchard, and Patricia Arquette plays Dee Dee, and both give fantastic performances. I mean, just great. Honestly, Patricia Arquette might be a little too attractive to play Dee Dee. Dee Dee is, although Dee Dee was, when you watch the documentary, she was a Miss America, but it wasn't like Miss America. It was some other kind of beauty pageant contestant. So she was supposedly attractive. I saw pictures of her back then. I didn't think she was attractive, but she was attractive enough to be in those things. So beauty's in the eye of the beholder. Well, who the fuck am I supposed to be to tell you what's beauty and what isn't? I just never found the girl to be attractive, but I hate her with all of my fucking heart, and I just wanted her to die every single second of this show. Not to get too personal, but I have a very rough relationship with my mother, to say the least. I actually have no relationship with my mother. I haven't talked to her in many, many years for a reason. But I have a very rough relationship with my mother in the past. And so any show where a mother is taking advantage of her child in a way that, like this especially, oh my God. So as I said, for you guys that don't know what this story is about, the story is that Dee Dee Blanchard has her daughter Rose, and she has been faking illnesses for her. Leukemia, paralysis, you name it. This chick has convinced the world that her daughter has it, and she's convinced her daughter she has it. She's lied to her about her age. She thinks she's 15 when she's actually 19. She thinks she's freaking, whatever. She keeps her wheelchair bound. She has a feeding tube in her stomach. She thinks she's allergic to sugar. And the girl has nothing wrong with her. Nothing. This is a Munchausen syndrome by proxy. And so she constantly makes her think she's sick, and all the doctors, and she goes to the doctor every month, and it's a huge scam, which if you really get into the story, I'm honestly not sure where Dee Dee was coming from, if she was just trying to scam, because she had a house made for her by, not Habitats for Humanity, that's for animals, right? Something like that, one of those foundations. She's had, trips to frickin' Disney World, everything paid for, because they're all trying to give to this sick girl who's dying of all these things. And the question, of course, comes down to how the fuck did the doctors, diagnose leukemia from a girl who doesn't have leukemia? I know that their papers supposedly got washed away in Hurricane Katrina, and that she falsified documentation and this and that, but how does a doctor... There were doctors in this show that looked further into the case. Not enough, and honestly, now that, seeing as how this is a real story and whatnot, you're just sitting there like, how the fuck did this go on for so long and people not catch it? This is a gross oversight in the medical profession. Like, people should answer. She had her saliva glands removed. She had, how does a doctor do that surgery without cause? Without searching every fucking other, way to get around that, to make sure, 100% sure that just shit needs to be done on a girl that young, to have a feeding tube put into her stomach every 6 months. It's a horrendous story. I mean, you want Dee Dee dead so fucking bad. It's insane. As far as what I would recommend, whether it be the documentary or this, both, honestly. I mean, I had a rough time watching this. I had a rough time watching the documentary, But I have an even rougher time watching this, probably because it's 8 hours long versus an hour and a half. I was furious almost the entire time. Literally, I was sitting there fuming. I got through it, but man, I was like pacing back and forth in the room because it just keeps getting worse. She's drugging her all the time to give her the symptoms. The drugs she's giving her are giving her some of the symptoms that are accompanied with these illnesses to make it further proof that she has these things. She has her wear glasses she doesn't need. She has her wear, her teeth are rotting out of her head from all the drugs that she's giving her. She has to have all of her teeth fall out of her fucking face. I mean, every horrible thing you can imagine. And eventually, if you can tell by the title of the thing, and they tell you this very beginning of the show, that Dee Dee was murdered by a man named Nicholas Godejohn, who was Dee Dee's boyfriend that she met online. She was having a secret life online. It gets really nuts. She has this wholly secret life online. She's like 15, maybe 13 years old mentally. I wouldn't even say that old, maybe 12 years old mentally. She talks like a little girl that just is like, oh my goodness, you know, the whole time. But she buys it. It's her mom keeping, you know, freaking retarding her process. And it's just the most horrendous thing. But the performances, holy shit, does Joey King kill it. She embodies who I saw in the documentary. It was good to watch the documentary before because I got to see interviews with Gypsy, who actually looks much happier because even though she's in prison, she's out of prison. Like the prison that she was in her whole life is nothing, you know, the prison she's in now is nothing compared to the prison she was in. So it was fucking just horrendous watching that way, but the performances, the story, all really good. You got Chloe Sevigny, I didn't ever know how to say her name, and the little girl from Bridge to Terabithia, and Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, and I can't remember what that girl's name is off the top of my head, but they play the family next door. But man, and the kid who plays Nicholas Godejohn in the show is the kid from Austin and Ally. My kids love Disney shows, and Austin and Ally is one of them. So I was like, oh shit, I know that kid. Which is funny because Austin from Austin and Ally just played Dahmer in My Friend Dahmer. So these kids are going dark in their later roles. But man, it's a really great show. I mean, it's very well produced. The house that they live in, that they get built, looks identical to the real one. I looked up that it isn't actually the house, so they really did recreate that house. It's exactly the same. All the performances are great. I was just, every episode I was like, when are they killing her? When are they killing her? Do I get to see it? Do I get to witness it? Do I get to do it? Maybe they'll fucking have some interactive thing. Maybe they'll have like the Oculus Rift and I'll get to put the glasses on and stab Dee Dee Blanchard to death. This is one of those things where at the end you really have to question, you know, what is okay and what isn't. Like, when is murder okay and when isn't it? I'm on the side of Dee Dee did everything wrong. I'm completely on Gypsy's side here. She got 8 years in prison, and she's now engaged to some guy in jail, so she's met somebody, but this girl's life was robbed from her. And this woman was a monster who I don't want to get political here. I don't want to get too controversial here. I know some people are like, no, death is never the option, whatever. No. The only thing that should have happened to Gypsy is she should have, if she was going to do time, I hope it's in a mental facility, because this girl needs to be properly reintroduced into society as a mentally competent person who was never given that fucking opportunity as an adult. As a 24-year-old woman, 25-year-old woman when this happened, and she's going to be, you know, like 33, 34 years old when she gets out of jail. She needs to be mentally competent. She needs to fucking be fixed up here. I don't know if you can ever fix that, but you got to make sure you try. So I really hope she's getting the fucking help she wanted. I know this is getting into spoiler territory-ish. I guess technically is, but you know the story. So I guess I'll put spoilers in the title so we don't have to worry about that. But yeah, that's the story. I was fuming during this. I'm glad Dee Dee's dead. I'm sorry. I'm not sorry. I fucking wholeheartedly. There's someone like that. There's nothing. How could you do that to your child? How the fuck could you do that to your child? what she did in this is unforgivable. You know, disagree with me all you want, but man, I wanted her fucking brutally murdered. Now, do I agree with what Nicholas Godejohn did? No, because what I've seen from him is he was probably going to go down this path anyways. If you watch the documentary, it paints him in a much different light than it does in this show. In this show, he's much more sympathetic than he is in the documentary. In the documentary, we find out that I think he raped the mom's dead body, but he said that he was either going to do it to her, but Gypsy had to talk him out of it because he had to rape her if she wasn't going to allow him to rape the mom's body. But in the freaking show, they hint at maybe he did the mom's body anyways. I don't know. This kid was off his fucking rocker, so I think he would have done something crazy anyways. It's a sad story all around. The way they portray Nick is he is so mentally incompetent, and it is a shame. Juliette Lewis also plays his mother in this, so got to see her in it. But anyway, guys, what did you guys think of the show? I really enjoyed the show, but I really didn't enjoy the show because I was miserable the whole time. Let me know what you guys thought about the show. Adios.